would definitely help. Now, a very interesting thing which I have kept it, that is BA's role in plan-driven and agile-driven. But let me try to give an understanding as to what is a plan-driven. And if you see over a period of the past years, when the traditional development was followed, things were done in a very sequential order. If you see sequential, a subject matter expert or a business stakeholder will explain or will be working with business analysts to elicit, to convey the requirements to a BA. BA will in turn document them and come out with the deliverables, and that would be presented to the stakeholder, the stakeholder called technical architect, and then technical architect in turn will give it to the developer, and then tester, and then finally it is all accumulated into a final product or an application. This is the box I'm talking about. This happens in more like a linear C, and it is more like a relay race what is happening here. And but if you talk about, let's look at the agile approach which you talk about. You have agile approach. This is an agile approach where all stakeholders are there. The backlog is defined, Scrum Master and product owner, and this team, committed team, which is there. So nowadays, most of the projects in most of the companies are following the second approach, which is agile approach. Let me quickly run you through both the approaches as to what is the fundamental difference between both the approaches, the traditional and agile. Traditional, most of you would be aware of. All requirements are documented upfront, and requirements are defined very, very clearly before the work is performed. Let me give you an example here. If you want to construct a house, defining all requirements about the house upfront and then only doing the construction work will fall into a traditional or a plan-driven approach. If you talk about agile approach, all agile believes in is all requirements cannot be fully predicted at the beginning. So positive and productive changes to the initial concept will arise during development, and this is the evolutionary process. So more in the agile, we say, let's start the work. As we move along, requirements will become more and more clear, and also the clarity would be obtained in the subsequent stages. So this is the fundamental difference which is there in both the approaches. And if you see the slide which I have presented out here, in plan-driven approaches, everything is very predictive. So that means everything is planned in advance. Linear is like a relay race where where a business analyst will give the deliverable to an architect to a developer to a tester. So this is the development. But whereas in agile, the delivery is done in short iterations, not spanning more than 2 weeks to 4 weeks. 2 weeks is the iteration length that we keep it, and more is delivering the business value items at the very, very quick span of a time. That's the main focus of the agile that we have. So if you see in traditional approach, business analyst, you elicit what the user wants, documenting the requirement. Sign off is very, very important thing. In agile also, when we talk about business analysts in agile projects would have to adopt a different practice, which include more frequent use of face-to-face communication. So I have come across in my projects that I have done, BA plays more or less the role of the product owner, and or if a product owner is there, he helps the product owner to elicit the requirements and all. So the BA's role is predominantly there in both the approaches. It's just the way you do about doing a project that varies from traditional to agile. In traditional, you define everything upfront. You follow a very formal change management process, and but whereas in agile, you say it basically is an evolutionary approach where requirements are as you go along, it will become more and more clear. You keep on doing your product backlog grooming. All that will happen in this one. So if you talk about agile, I would rather say in agile, projects in agile are in different forms. The technique, it will vary from project to project. Requirement activities. This is a very essential key thing which I talk about. If you talk about agile or if you talk about plan-driven, requirements elicitation has to happen in both the approaches. So requirement activities don't go away in agile development. Requirement elicitation and negotiation, documentation, validation are activities that still have to be performed during each of these several short development cycles in agile project. So that's what I say. A good BA brings about a huge difference in agile environment also. And huge challenges I have come across where BAs are either helping the product owners to elicit their requirements properly, or they are also playing the role of the product owner. So just to give you a recap as to what we have been proceeding on with here is I just spoke about the PA, the business analysis, the definition part of it, and I spoke about the essential skill, who is a business analyst, and I spoke about the techniques which are required or the essential skills which are required for a BA, and how projects are done in both traditional and the agile approach, and the BA's role in both approaches is what I spoke.